and we're glad you're here, Congressman. Thanks for making time for us, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I have so many questions, but I also have to thank you, first of all, for your service. A lot of people refer to working in Congress as service, but you're a guy who signed up to do real service to this nation in our military, and I love your history, and I love your dedication to it. You're one of a couple of JAGs who made it into the Congress. I know Lindsey Graham also has done a lot of similar work as a JAG officer and part of the JAG Corps, but thank you for all the service you've given to this nation already. And you're still a young guy, so
yeah.
we have great expectations going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to that.
A lot of things that we want to talk about today. Of course, we want to get to the money, taxes. Let's talk about HR 5863 and the Federal Disaster Tax Relief Act of 2023. Can you give us like simple man language on how this can best benefit each one of us or any one of us here?
Yeah, it can benefit anybody that's listening to this show. Everyone in Southwest Florida, frankly, 45 states, the people experiencing the wildfires or the fires in California right now, because that's now a presidentially declared natural disaster. So going back all the way to Hurricane Ian is when I started working on this. Right after Hurricane Ian, I filed this bill that would give tax relief to anybody in a federally declared natural disaster. So Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Nicole, Hurricane Idalia, Hurricane Debbie, Helene, and Milton from this last year, if you had any expenses, and even if you had insurance, the deductible that you paid on your insurance counts as an expense. You can deduct that on your taxes. So going back to Hurricane Ian, obviously most of us, hopefully, have already filed your taxes for 2022. You can talk to your tax professional and file an amended return for 2022 to be able to encapsulate those costs that you have. And you just have to work with your tax professional on that, how you go through and determine what was an expense related to the hurricane. But any expense from any federally declared natural disaster, you can deduct from your expenses in your federal income taxes. I think it's hundreds of millions of dollars to my district. I mean, I've talked to people that didn't have insurance and their house was literally taken off the foundation, in Ian or in Helene or Milton, and businesses also who obviously have taken significant losses. So I think hundreds of millions of dollars in tax relief just to my district, but we did it in a way that would allow anyone in the country who was in a federally declared natural disaster to be able to take advantage of it as well. The wildfires in California, the wildfires in Maui, the train derailment in Ohio, all of those count, and it goes back 4 years, and we did it prospectively too. So from when the president signed it, we had 60 days because we wanted to allow. What's crazy is Congress has to pass this bill to allow people to do this. I'm going to change that this year in the tax bill, but Congress had it, and it takes a long time, obviously, for things through Congress. It took me 2 years just to get this done, and it was overwhelmingly bipartisan supported. So we tried to do it prospective too. So the fires right now in California, they'll be able to take advantage of this in this tax year as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a gigantic benefit to those people because those numbers are just astronomical at this point. But really important to us. So you can go back 4 years is what you're saying and look at any national disaster, declared disaster, and look at the costs that you incurred as it relates to either just flat out expenses or things that weren't covered by insurance, and you can file an amended tax return. That's the fair in boiling it down for everybody.
Yeah, and then it's deducted based on your tax bracket. So, if you're in the 30% tax bracket and you had $10,000 in expenses, you're going to be able to deduct $3,000. So it's very beneficial to. And a lot of people don't know, so I'm glad that thanks for bringing me on your show to talk about it because it's very easy to do. We just did our amended return for 2022 and filed that because we had significant expenses as it relates to Ian. Every single person that was in the federally declared natural disaster area, which obviously all those in Lee County and in Southwest Florida can take advantage of this.
Yeah, this is really good stuff, and a lot of us are already starting to put together all our receipts for this year, so it just kind of dovetails nicely into your current tax prep, and you won't have to open up a new case with your tax preparer. Just say, hey, what about filing an amended return, and get that done. Now, you talk, Congressman Stubbe, about adding this to future legislation so it doesn't have to be like a separate thing. It's just automatic. Is that something that would be part of the reauthorization of the Trump tax cuts?
That's going to be my plan. We have a hearing next week to start that discussion. The committee, I sit on the tax writing committee, the Ways and Means Committee, that's going to write the tax bill that's going to reauthorize TCJA, the tax cuts, Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And it is my intention to just put just one sentence you can put in there that says, anytime there's a federally declared natural disaster, that taxpayer automatically can deduct those expenses from their taxes for that tax year, so that Congress doesn't have to do this every couple of years. It's crazy. I mean, I had to roll my own leadership and file what's called a discharge petition just to get it heard on the floor. And so 218 members had to literally walk down to the dais and sign my discharge petition just to get it heard. You shouldn't have to go through all of that to help people out. That's something that Congress typically does in some type of budget supplemental, but there was never a supplemental for any of these hurricanes. So they never addressed it. So that's why I did this standalone bill. So what I'm going to do in this tax package is this starts to move forward, which we hope to have it out of the House by May, I think is the timeline. I think it'll be out of the committee probably by March to then send it over to the Senate. But I want a provision in there that says that Congress doesn't have to keep doing this. If the president declares a natural disaster for whatever reason in a specific area, that encapsulated area will have the opportunity to deduct those expenses from their taxes, and Congress doesn't have to keep going through this every single time.
Yeah, it seems like a smart, efficient thing. It's along the lines of what Donald Trump did with the funding for historically black colleges and universities, where he made it kind of an annual thing as opposed to they have to come and beg every year, automatic renewal. That's just good common sense. If we're talking about good common sense, and we're talking about this tax bill and renewing the Trump tax cuts, and this is probably going to be part of a 1, 2, or 3 bill package. Right now, based on what you're hearing and seeing, do you think it's a possibility that it will be, as Donald Trump has said, one big, beautiful bill?
The House is going to have one big, beautiful bill. That's absolutely what we're going to do. That was our position, has been our position. You've seen the House, we only have a 2-vote majority, and we had 2 Republicans that didn't want to vote for Johnson, and then Trump had to talk them into voting for him. So having a 2-vote margin makes it very difficult to get legislation out. I think you should put everything in one bill. It makes it very difficult for people to vote against it. And the president can rally behind it. The committee can rally behind it. The Congress can rally behind it, and we push it out. If you do 2 or 3 reconciliation bills, let's say we do what the Senate's wanting to do, which I don't agree with, and you do one bill on border and energy, and then you come back 6 months later and you try to pass a tax package, the tax package expires at the end of this year. And there's a lot of conservatives that have challenges with pay-fors on tax packages. If you put it all together with a reconciliation package with spending cuts, it'll be much easier for conservatives like myself to digest the cut of taxes with spending cuts. I mean, the tax bill alone is probably going to cost, with no tax on tips, you're probably looking at $6 to $7 trillion over a 10-year period of time. We have to pay for that. We also have to balance our budget. We also have to cut spending. You don't want to chop that up into 3 different bills and try to shove that through the House and the Senate. It becomes politically very difficult to do that. And from a time perspective, getting the time on the floor, getting the time in committees to walk through the bill through regular order, to do the type of things that Republicans want it done so that members have the ability to amend it and have their influence in the creation of the bill. You can't, there's in my opinion, there's no way you're going to get 2 or 3 reconciliation bills done in a year. You have to get it done soon. The president wants his agenda done. I fully support getting that done as soon as possible.
I'm with you on this, and I like the urgency, and I like the idea of not waiting until the 11th hour like we saw at the end of the year with the CR that had to be squeezed through. Donald Trump has a good connection, it seems, with the GOP members in the House. there seem to be some Senate members who, are always squawking about these bills and pushing this forward. Do you sense the president has as strong a link to the Senate, the GOP Senate members?
Well, the great thing about President Trump is he won overwhelmingly, even in the swing states. So if you have more moderate senators in the Republican Party, which a lot of them are, I would say the majority of our conference is more moderate than a guy like me. He's going to have a tremendous amount of influence on them because of his election mandate he got and the support that he has within the party. I certainly would not want to be a Republican senator in the United States Senate standing in the way of him passing one of his landmark key pieces of legislation that he campaigned on, that he won on. I certainly wouldn't want to be that guy. But there's the Mitch McConnells of the world in the Senate, the Susan Collins of the world in the Senate, who are much more left of center as it relates to Republicans. But I just can't see them going against the president. They would get overwhelming pushback from their district amongst Republicans, which obviously has elected them into office. So I don't think he's going to have a problem. There's going to be challenges. I mean, you've got a 2-vote majority in the House, and you've got a 3-vote majority in the Senate. There's going to be challenges because 1 or 2 people in the House can shut it down. But the president obviously has an incredible amount of influence over those members. I mean, we saw it with the speaker debate. Yeah. You saw 2 guys vote against Mike Johnson. They left the vote open. Trump called both of them. They literally both walked down to the rostrum, changed their vote, and Mike Johnson became speaker.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, and I was all in on it. I know it ticked off a lot of people on the left, but I thought, well, that's how this works. We're allowed to see the process now. We're talking with Congressman Greg Steube from District 17, giving us a lot of great details, especially as it relates to what you can do to take advantage of the disaster relief tax benefits, and you can go back 4 years. Thank you for that. Is there anything on your future agenda that we need to know about? What are you working on right now, Congressman?
Well, next week, my banning biological men and women's sports bill is up on the floor. I've worked on that for several years. We passed it in the House this past Congress, but of course, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate wouldn't let that become law. That is going to be on the floor Tuesday. I have championed that issue for years now. It started when I was in the Judiciary Committee, and to see that bill now, what's interesting is last Congress, not a single Democrat voted for that bill. I guarantee you on Tuesday, watch the board, I guarantee you there will be Democrats that vote for that because they've seen how much of a huge electoral issue that is. It's an 80% issue. Even Democrat and moderate women, moms, don't want boys in their daughters' locker rooms. They don't want boys playing against them in girls' volleyball. So it's a big issue that is widely supported. I bet you now are going to have Democrats are going to vote for that, and then it'll go to the Senate, and hopefully it'll pass the Senate. It'll at least get a vote in the Senate, and you can see where people are. But that is something that I've worked on for years that'll be on the floor next week. Tuesday, I believe, is when we're voting on it.
Well, I will be watching because I'm a nerd, and I love watching the vote tallies, and especially on this one. You had great support this week with a judge overturning the Biden effort to rewrite Title IX. So it feels like the momentum's coming back from left towards the center and maybe even a little bit towards the right. And I'll be very happy to see any Democrat standing up and voting about science on behalf of biological science, because it's a really important piece. Congressman, we appreciate you. We're probably going to be running around your office the week of the inauguration, so don't be surprised if we knock on your door and come by and say hello.
Yeah, definitely come by and say hi.